There you are, Supervisor. And so I'm going to start the meeting by turning it over to you to give us some updates. And
Well,
we appreciate you coming.
of course. Thank you very much. I know I have another meeting after this, but I want to cover as much as we possibly can together. I want to start by acknowledging yesterday's news and what I'm sure are a range of emotions that you all are feeling, including righteous anger. And I just want you to know we continue to be available to support you. And I know that this is a step towards accountability, but there's much more work to be done, and I'm committed to doing that alongside you. I was asked to come here today to address two topics, but happy to talk about anything else that might come up. First is the Gladstones project. So I wanted to acknowledge three things to start out, and I know we're going to get into questions after, but the timeline, the claims regarding SB 79 implications, and then, of course, what comes next so everyone knows how to engage in the process. This project was something that started long before I took office. In fact, the 1997 concession agreement with Gladstone's was set to expire in 2017, but it was extended at that time. And in 2018, the Board of Supervisors approved an exclusive negotiating agreement with PCH Beach Associates, which includes the team that you all know today. In 2021, this group, PCH Beach Associates, introduced the current version of the building and conducted community outreach based on that version. And in 2022, prior to my joining the Board of Supervisors approved a contract option and concession agreement with the PCH Beach Associates to move the project forward. In August of this year, Zach, the most recent communication he had with your group was to update the PPCC about the project in August. And so at that time, he didn't hear a request for a formal presentation, though I am clear in recent days that is something that people have expressed interest in having. And I certainly take to heart the community's questions and concerns. We want to make sure that you are getting the answers that you need and deserve. Because this is a public-private partnership, it is not only the county that can provide those answers for you. And yesterday, I chose to continue ahead with support going ahead with the Coastal Commission hearing because we risk losing our partners in this effort if we didn't act now. As you can imagine, business partners who start a project like this, on the timeline that I just indicated to you, we didn't want to lose the project entirely, and they've been working on this since 2018. So I understand that that doesn't mean you don't deserve answers. And of course, this project, from the county's perspective, has not changed substantially since 2021 when it was formally discussed at that time. So that's sort of the timeline of how we got to this point. With regard to the SB 79 implications, I understand that misinformation has caused real fear and concern. And so that's why it was important for me to address this with you today, because the claims about SB 79 triggering because of this project are simply not true. The Gladstones project is not creating a major transit stop. SB 79 would not apply to this site, even if the bill becomes law, which it is not currently. The proposed bus turnaround and stop do not meet the bill's criteria. In fact, no Big Blue bus stop currently qualifies as bus rapid transit under SB 79. Additionally, the City of LA maps with regard to SB 79 confirmed that this is not an anticipated site should SB 79 be signed. My understanding is that, in fact, this bus turnaround on the site was added to the project based on a recommendation that came from this group, because this community wanted to make sure that the bus turnarounds that were happening on very narrow streets in your neighborhoods were accommodated at a place like this site, which could keep it out of the neighborhood and creating those impacts, and instead put it on a site that was designed to handle it. That doesn't mean it's become a new site. It means that it's accommodating existing buses that are already in the community. So I just wanted to address directly, it does not trigger SB 79. In terms of next steps, the county's Department of Beaches and Harbors and the developer have offered to meet with PPCC, I believe, on October 23rd to answer your questions, which I believe deserve to be answered. But of course, that is up to you if you wish to have a conversation with them at that time. I also wanted to confirm with the county what is left in our county process as it relates to this project. The developer will need to comply with all of the pre-construction conditions from the Coastal Commission. They need to complete and submit engineering plans and permit documents to the county and obtain agency clearances. They need to meet all of the conditions in the contract option agreement with the county, and they need to establish a project website and other ongoing community engagement to provide information to the public. And it has been made very clear to my office that you do not feel that the community has sufficiently been communicated with by the representatives of this project. And we have also communicated that to them because we do want to make sure that you are getting the information that you would like. I was also asked to talk about the Rebuild Authority. Do you want me to do that now, or do you want me to take questions on this first and then talk about it
Well, why
later?
don't we, I think I have one, two, I have 5 questions lined up.
Okay,
So if it's okay with you, we'll
sure.
start, I'll just go in the row for how they've come up. So we'll start with Jessica Rogers, who happened to be all day at the Coastal Commission hearing yesterday. So Jessica, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, first I'm gonna lead up to my question. So,
Okay.
like Sue said, I was at the meeting yesterday, and it was the first that we had heard that from the project when it started in 2021. That very interestingly, you had 16 meetings on this project, and nobody from PPCC or from the community was aware of it. And then in the news, most people here on this board are aware that in Santa Monica on Ocean Avenue, the county is opening up a homeless drug den for mental health with 47 beds right about 2 blocks south of San Vicente. And how interesting that both Gladstone's project and the Ocean Avenue project came as a complete surprise to the community. Also, recently over the summer, Ben Allen out of nowhere popped up a bill 546 that had your name written all over it, a bill for creating an authority for our community. And once again, our community was not we had like no information on that bill, and we immediately shut that down for the very same reason as you took our voice away. So I will say one thing before I ask you your question is that as
And
far as
then
I
Jessica, will
know,
the question be
the
related to
question is coming. It's going to be
Gladstone's
really
place?
quick, really
Okay.
quick. There is nothing more evil than removing people's right to a voice. And I would like to know, because this also comes to what's coming further, how is it that you can keep showing your face in this community after what you keep doing to our community? It is so disrespectful. I do not understand why you keep showing your face.
Okay, Jessica, do you have a question about
That was the
Gladstone?
question. That was the question. How could she keep showing up,
Okay,
lying to our face, and,
I'm gonna
and,
call
and
on Chris
putting us
Fitz
through
then.
this, especially after what we've just been through?
Okay, Chris, do you have a question about Gladstone's?
Yes, thank you, Jessica. I appreciate your passion. Too am concerned about the lack of notice to the community. I don't want to dwell on that right now. We'll have opportunities to talk about that later. But I want to drill down on one thing that you said that is not accurate, respectfully. And I want the board and the community who's here tonight to know. You said, and if I took it down right, in 2021, uh, it, the current version of the project was shown to the community or was approved, or I forget the language, but the idea that a current version was made available or shown in 2021, that is not true. It was a different building that was shown. And in 2021, when Mr. Tlefson came to this board, I was there, and took the minutes, and that's in the minutes, he promised to come back when more information, there would be a redesign and more information was available. It was basically an open invitation for him to come back. He did not come back. I understand at the hearing, he sort of put the onus on us, which is ridiculous, to ask him, beg him to come back when we didn't know the status. So what I'm asking you is you could confirm for us going forward that there's going to be transparency, as Jessica mentioned, that our voices are going to be heard. We're not children. We're adults. Some of us are highly educated professionals, and we are absolutely furious with what has happened here. It is a failure on the part of many elected officials, and the plans have changed, and what is now before us is not what was before us in 2021. And that's really all I wanted to say. If you have a comment, that'd be great. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I obviously want to be here to answer your questions. And I think the difficult position I find myself in is relying on information that's provided to me from the county from a time when I wasn't here because this project started before me. So I appreciate you acknowledging what your experience was so I can make sure that what the county records are match what your experience is. So if that wasn't your experience, I appreciate you correcting the record for me. Thank you. We want to make sure, of course, that you are being communicated with, which is why I indicated, I've spoken with the developer who indicated that they're available to come. I know they were, I think the leadership of this group did not want them to come today given the time constraints, but they've offered to come on October 23rd, as well as Beaches and Harbors, to be able to speak in more detail about any aspects of the project that you believe have changed from 2021 until now, and address any concerns that the community has. And that's why I also outlined all of the aspects that still need to be addressed by the county. So I apologize if I represented something that is not how the community experienced it. Again, because this happened before I was there, I'm just relying on what county records are. So thank you for helping me understand your perspective. And I'm very clear that people are frustrated, and I want to make sure that we are moving forward with a project that benefits the community, not harms the community. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hey, Beth.
Thank you. I'll say thank you for being here. I will say we adore your rep, Zach. He always comes to our meetings. And Zach and Tracy's office are like pretty much the only people that consistently show up. So thank you, Zach. You're amazing. But I will say we communicate well with Zach. And I think we felt like the rug was pulled out yesterday. And we take very precise minutes. We have minutes. I was at that meeting June 24th, 2021. I like Gladstone's. I like Wolfgang Puck. But I was like, why do we need this fancy restaurant right there? I mean, Gladstone's is for everybody. But regardless, yeah, to know that all these meetings happen without, any interaction when we see Zach every 2 weeks, is really upsetting. Tellefson said that he was going to come back and inform us as he made changes. That did not happen. Then we also have notes that said that he was supposed to check in with Caltrans, and supposedly that has not happened. And this is not just usual, life is normal, times. We've been devastated. Our neighborhoods look like nuclear bombs went off in them. So how does this structure benefit the Palisades community?
So the new structure is designed with all of the hardening and sustainability practices that are up to date.
Sustainability is not demolishing things. Like my son is a big environmentalist. He thrifts. He doesn't want to wreck anything. Like it doesn't make sense to me. It's all buzzwords that don't seem like they work in real life. You're going to be making a lot more climate change, making a new building than you are just leaving it the way it is and making a nice parking lot. repave the parking lot.
I hear you. I hear your perspective. We believe that the new design actually helps to enhance the safety of the building and the structure. It was impacted by the fires in part during the Palisades fire. We also do intend to serve a diverse array of clientele and open up the property more to the public. There will be a cafe that is accessible in addition to the restaurant. So it's not just a high-end restaurant, but serves the entire community. And the design for the seating will also help to accommodate public who and open up the space to create more access. The parking lot redesign accommodates, as I mentioned, the bus turnarounds, which keeps them out of the neighborhood and brings them onto that site and allows for proper traffic flow at the site.
Okay, thank you. I think we need to move on to Nina.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, I was there 9 hours yesterday so we could make comment. You guys could have come earlier. You could have had, community input. That didn't happen. That scares us. It's just not right.
I hear you.
Thanks, Beth. Okay, Nina?
Hi, Supervisor Horvath, thank you so much for being here. I also was at the hearing yesterday, and my current questions and objections to the project have to do with the claim of misinformation regarding the implications of SB 79. And I want to understand your understanding about why it doesn't apply, and then if I could, share my understanding about why I think it very well might apply, and so that you can understand the concerns of the community. So my first question to you is, can you please explain to us from where you get your assurances that SB 79 does not apply? Is that, and specifically, have you spoken to SCAG and gotten assurances from them? Have you spoken to land use lawyers? What about the text makes you think it doesn't apply? So that's my first question. And then I'll share with you why I think there's a very good chance it will apply. So go ahead.
Why don't you go first?
Okay. So it's my understanding that SB 79 defines two different types of transit, tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 2 bases its definitions of what constitutes rapid transit for purposes of SB 79 on Public Resources Code, and I've got it in front of me here, 2106.2 of the Public Resources Code. And only that first section, the very first paragraph of the Public Resources Code it talks about dedicated bus lines, and it's a two-part, and I apologize, I'm a lawyer. Words make a lot of meaning to me. So the way that sentence is constructed shows that there are two different contemplations for rapid transit, for a dedicated bus line, one of which is something like the line that we have out in the valley, okay, which you're familiar with, which has like a median and things like that. The other is just a 24 some portion of the line, and the Public Resource Code is unclear that some portion of the line simply needs to be dedicated to buses only 24/7. According to the Public Resources Code and the way some other statutes have interpreted that, it doesn't apply, it doesn't have to be the entire portion of the bus line. Any portion of a bus line that is 24/7 dedicated makes it a dedicated bus line for purposes of that Public Resources Code. So for example, Route 9, the Big Blue Bus 9, has a portion down by Santa Monica High School that's painted dedicated bus line 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
At this, what was called a bus turnaround originally, and then in your notice, it was called a transit station. In Assemblywoman Jackie Irwin's letter, it was referred to as, and I'm not going to get the words exactly right, but expansive transit facility. And then the COO of Metro, also in support, referred to it as a transit station. All of those seemed to indicate, as well as and I only saw half of the communication from the Big Blue Bus Company, but they also talked about it in an ex parte communication with one of the commissioners, that they were excited about the fact that the three lines were going to come together, not just line 9, but also 602 and 134 of Metro. And 602 is also designated to have a portion of it as a dedicated bus line down in Westwood before the end of 2025. So those things together made me, and I apologize if I'm raising my voice, I'm Italian. Those things together, the description in your notice before it was changed, those 2 letters, coupled with the fact that we have 3 lines meeting with a dedicated bus turnaround, 2 bus stops on one side and a bus drop off on the other, as well as the dedicated portions of 2 of the lines, seem to be able to trigger SB 79.
Okay, Nina, we'll let you answer Supervisor Horvath, but Nina, after that, I think I need to go to a couple other people who have their hands up with other questions, okay?
That's why that's.
We need to move a little bit quicker,
Yeah,
okay?
no, well, I appreciate you going first so I get a full understanding because I think there has been a lot of confusion around this and it's helpful for me to understand how you're seeing it. And I completely appreciate that different notices and that you referenced calling what is happening in the transit part of this project different names also contributes to confusion. So I really understand how, what you're suggesting there and why the consistency matters. The way it has been explained to our office is, first of all, that this is private property where this bus turnaround is happening. It is not a public right of way, not a dedicated public right of way. So that doesn't trigger SB 79. Second, the Big Blue Bus 9 is already in the Pacific Palisades, and the city of Los Angeles maps did not identify this as eligible for SB 79 with these existing bus lines. I think you're correct that if something like a dedicated bus lane in the future or other transit improvements were made to increase whatever would be happening at that site, then there may be triggers. But that what is created on this site is not a trigger for SB 79. It would be any sort of public transportation enhancements. And so that being said, I want to take back everything that you said here tonight, and I know my team is listening, and make sure that we are taking what you just outlined and comparing it with what we have from our county records and from county council's interpretation, and making sure that we address all of the aspects that you outlined so we're seeing it like you're seeing it. And I'm happy to get back to you if you'd like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I just want to say that the members of the Coastal Commission were equally as confused, and there was nobody there to offer the explanation. And in the future, we would appreciate that if you're going to make a definitive statement about something like that, that you have somebody there to back it up.
Okay, Christopher LaGrasse.
Hi, Supervisor, and I apologize, my camera is off. I'm on the road and I don't have good connectivity.
I understand
It's actually a lot simpler. And I just want to preface this. I do have a question. Please don't call it misinformation. There are differing interpretations, and there are a lot of people out there who view this differently than you do. And frankly, it's insulting when you call it misinformation. You sound like Donald Trump. So please listen to us and don't just dismiss us out of hand as purveying misinformation, as I'm going to go into detail.
Okay, but not a lot of detail.
SB 79,
Okay.
SB 79 includes transit plans that were adopted before January 1st, 2026. Under LA County Metro Plan 2035, which I assume you're familiar with, Line 602 is going to get dedicated lanes through Westwood. You can look at the map, it's on page 122. Big Blue Bus number 9 currently does not have the 15-minute headway that SB 79 requires. However, under what's called the Brighter Blue plan, which was adopted by the Santa Monica City Council in August of 2024, it will have 15-minute headways, and it will be extended down to PCH. Under SB 79, those two lines, because that's the fundamental requirement of SB 79, you need two intersecting bus lanes, some portion of which, as Nina explained a minute ago, are dedicated, and that's the Public Resources Code, and a 15-minute or less headway during peak travel times in the morning and in the evening. According to the plans that both LA Metro and Big Blue Bus have adopted, that's what's going to be happening between Chautauqua and PCH on Sunset Boulevard, making not just the Gladstone's facility, but that entire stretch of Sunset Boulevard falls now within SB 79. So that's just the fact. And I'd be more than happy if you want to send me to Zach or whoever, I can give you those maps. I can give you those plans. They were passed by the Board of Supervisors before, obviously before you were elected, and passed by the Santa Monica City Council. That will happen sometime in the near future, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, whatever the case may be. Those are the plans. So now we have two overlapping bus lines, or as they say, intersecting bus lines that hit both requirements of SB 79, which makes it, and yes, the Gladstone's project was proposed before SB 79, no doubt about it. But that makes the Gladstone's property, the Gladstone's proposal, a lot different. It goes from maybe a roundabout and whatever to an anchor for SB 79, not just hitting that part of the Palisades, but all of Sunset Boulevard, a quarter mile, a half mile from Chautauqua to PCH. Now, I may be wrong, but I have a lot of smart land use attorneys who have spent the last 9 months studying SB 79, and this is the general consensus. And again, offline would be more than happy to talk to you about this. But my question then is, if I'm right, and let's just assume worst case scenario, would you be willing to put forth a motion in at the Board of Supervisors exempting, like Karen Bass did, and asking the governor to exempt Pacific Palisades from Chautauqua to Pacific Palisades from SB 79? That would actually solve everything. Then we can talk about what the bus station should and shouldn't look like, and we can get into the weeds. But my question to you is, would you be willing to put forth that kind of a motion like Tracy did in council, like Mayor Bass did to the governor, and say, hey, we need to protect this stretch of Sunset Boulevard because SB 79 could be coming? And just last thing, SB 79 has not been interpreted by courts yet. So we don't really know what it's going to look like. And there is nothing to stop, assuming the governor signs it, and I will be shocked, I'll eat my left shoe if Gavin Newsom doesn't sign it. But we have to, for the sake of protecting our communities, assume the worst. So would that be something you would be willing to entertain, and should the worst come to pass?
Yes. First of all, I want to apologize for the offense that I caused. You made very clear how you heard what I said, and that wasn't my intention to offend you, to hurt your feelings, to in any way characterize what's happening as anything close to anything our president would do. So I appreciate you asking the question and being willing to engage afterwards to make sure that all of the information that you have is something that the county has and is considering. I absolutely am committed to making sure that the density that would come from SB 79 is not concentrated in the Palisades, does not come to the Palisades. I'm not trying to parse words here, just being very clear. It is not my intention to see increased density in this area, especially because it is a very high fire severity zone. The city's own maps do not indicate that this would have SB 79 implications, but if there were any change that would to those maps, it would be my commitment to the community that we protect the community from the SB 79 implication. Yes.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, I've got time for just a couple more quick questions because I know we want to get on to the next topic. So I'm going to call on Michael Edlin.
My question is a simple one, relatively speaking. am I incorrect that this project would be or should be subject to CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act? And if so, what the findings were, and if not, why is it not subject to it?
So it is my understanding that it was subject to CEQA, that it followed the process that was outlined for this project, and I believe someone from Beaches and Harbors is on here to be able to speak to the entire process. That
Sure. Yeah. Hi, my name is Amy Caves. I'm the Chief Deputy Director of Beaches and Harbors for LA County. In terms of the CEQA, an exemption was claimed and analyzed by council for the developer and our county regional planning staff some years ago. And so it was exempt as a class 1 and class 2 CEQA exemption, basically based on the fact that an existing use. And so this will be an equal to or lesser intense use. So meaning that we're staying within the footprint, there's fewer seats, fewer parking, all of that. So it's class 1 and class 2 CEQA exempt.
So approval is not required, is what I'm hearing. And that
Well,
was
the
okay.
CEQA findings, oh, I'm so sorry. The CEQA findings were made by the board in 2022 when the project agreements were approved. And so the exemption finding was made then, and that was the only compliance that was required.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one more quick question, and then I know Supervisor Horvath wants to get to the next topic before she has to leave. So I'm going to call on Miriam Czar. Miriam, let's make it quick if we can.
I shall. Thank you very much, Sue. Hi, Supervisor Horvath.
Hi.
I'm actually in your neck of the woods. I was downtown today for Access LA, and we got to meet one of your colleagues. So it's been a full day, and I'm sorry that I'm not there in person and on camera. Supervisor, what I wanted to share with you was that a few of us, more than a handful of us, went down to the Coastal Commission meeting 2 days ago or yesterday, so that we could comment on the project that's going on at the corner of Sunset and PCH, the Gladstones project. As you know, and a lot of people on this call know, I've been involved in Pacific Palisades civic affairs for more than a decade. And a decade ago, it was brought to our attention that something would be done, that the concessionaire would change, and that something would be done down at that intersection. But we were promised year after year that we would be kept abreast of any changes and anything that would be specifically being developed. It turns out that that didn't happen. The appellant said yesterday at the Coastal Commission hearing that the reason the project wasn't brought back to the Pacific Palisades Community Council was because we didn't ask. Well, we didn't ask because we didn't know there was something going on. We now have learned that there's a big project going on. It's got wings, dare I say. I wonder if we have a photo to show, but it is rather large. It's not at all small or unimpactful. In the meantime, our entire community has burned down and we're about to rebuild. So what was described to us was a 2-year-long process of construction where there would be cranes and massive construction with heavy equipment and machinery and materials being taken to this intersection in order to build this project. In the meantime, we're going to be jostling for space so that we can rebuild our own community. And if it's going to take 2 years, I dare to say that I think we're hoping that we have a pretty good, robust recovery underway in the course of that 2 years. There has been minimal outreach to the community. And I understand that there's state legislation that does not require that outreach to happen, but we're here and we haven't heard about this project, and it stands to impact us really in an outsized way that I think maybe nobody contemplated before the January fire, but it would be fair to contemplate now. So I'm going to ask you to please, if you can, stay the progress of this process, of this project, and please bring it back to the community. Allow us to have some input on this thing. Allow us to contemplate the timing, allow us to contemplate the impact on our recovery, and ultimately allow us to take a look at what's being proposed, because again, it isn't small. It is a major project at this intersection that really is very much a part of our town. So I ask you really please to reconsider allowing this project to go forward, even though it legally probably has the right to do so.
Okay, thank you. Well, if you want to answer just for a minute, then you can move on.
I did highlight the next steps in the process. Would it be helpful for me to repeat what, just so the community is clear on how to engage in those steps, or let it
You know
go.
what, Supervisor Horvath, I know we already had this entire discussion at the beginning of the meeting, so I think we've already got that in the record and in the recording. So if you want to just answer Miriam's question by saying, yes, we'll look into it or whatever. I know we need to move on because I know you need to leave.
Yeah, well, I just want to address, yes, that's why I outline what the public process is going forward, and that the developer who is the lead on this project has offered to come to the community, I believe, at your next meeting to engage in the conversation around whatever aspects of the project continue to be cause for concern. I will be taking all of the comments that I've heard here tonight and questions, and working with my team to make sure we're getting clear answers to them, and pushing from the perspective that you all have regarding the concerns that you have. So we're not just accepting what comes from our county staff, but making sure that all of your direct questions and concerns are being answered, and that you know exactly what the process is going forward. So there is no missed opportunity for engagement. And again, because the information that we were given when we came into office is that this was ready to move forward and had gone through a community process. That's how it was presented to us. So I am very clear that there are concerns that are being raised at this moment that deserve answers, and I'm happy to work with the community on getting those answers.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to the next topic. I know you have a hard leave pretty quickly.
Sure. So I also was asked to talk a bit about the rebuilding authority, and sort of where we're at with that. I know that separate and apart from that, I just want to mention I was at the Pacific Palisades Democratic Club, where I was directly asked what action we were going to take with regard to the report that has come out. And the first action we did take as a board to expand the Office of Emergency Management. And I look forward to working with your community on that. But specific to the Rebuild Authority, the Blue Ribbon Commission on Climate Action and Fire Safe Recovery, this was a key takeaway that we needed to create a centralized rebuilding authority to help expedite people getting back into their homes and into their community. As we all know, Senator Allen introduced a state bill with the intention of helping to create that rebuilding authority. And I want to acknowledge that there was clear concern over the bill. I believe that, from the outset, we expressed to the senator that the combined language from the bill that he partially gutted and the language that he added created misunderstandings around what the intention of the Rebuild Authority was and what it sought to accomplish. And so because of that, I have asked, as of this afternoon, he said he has not pulled the bill. I've asked him that we not continue with this. If he wants to continue with the bill, that it not be in this form, because I think it's what has caused concern and confusion. And to be very clear specifically about what the Rebuild Authority calls for, the legislature reconvenes in January, on January 5th. But a separate and apart from that bill, this past summer, the county released our blueprint for rebuilding that, among other topics, talks about a rebuilding authority. So the county, because we do know that I believe our status quo process will not be able to accommodate the volume of requests and the speed of requests that the county has to accommodate, we are still pursuing an outside rebuild authority, whether it is a JPA, whatever form it takes is not yet determined, but the blueprint for rebuilding is what's guiding our county action going forward. This is because we have properties in the unincorporated area that need to be rebuilt. And the city of Malibu has asked to be a part of that with us. They've indicated that they are interested in doing that. And we would certainly always leave a seat at the table for the city of Los Angeles should the city change its mind about wanting to be part of working together at scale to try and address some of our shared concerns. We are very clear the city of Los Angeles has indicated they want no part of it at this point in time, and that the city of Los Angeles is your lead land use authority on your recovery process. So the county proceeding with an outside rebuild authority does not in any way impact the city unless the city chooses to become a part of it. And so I just want to be very clear about the status of that and where we're at with the bill.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. And I know you have to leave. We're going to take one question. I'm going to take it from Reza.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue. I just want to bring up a concern. One of the reasons why the Blue Ribbon, everything that you did with that Blue Ribbon Commission, that it wasn't well received by our community, didn't have to do necessarily just with the language that's in the bill. But I want, and Zach knows this, and again, I'll say it. Zach is a great field rep for you. We're very grateful for him. But I want to share with you that you didn't do any outreach in the Palisades. The Blue Ribbon Commission did not even mention the word hydrants more than 3 times. It talked about watershed. It didn't talk about the hydrants not working. So how can we trust an authority that comes from the county that never even talked about hydrant pumps not being powered separately, hydrants not working, the reservoir being empty, all of these things that were wrong? Your Blue Ribbon Commission, you didn't put one builder like me on your Blue Ribbon Commission. You had a bunch of think tank professors, environmentalists on a commission, and that's great for what they want to do. Put a new Blue Ribbon Commission together and put real people like me on it, and we'll really tell you what we need, and then we'll trust the authority that you put together. So please, Supervisor, let's do it the right way. Let's put a new commission together with real boots on the ground. I've brought this up to, and I'll preface this, say this is why homeless housing has also failed. You have services on there, you have mental health on there. You
Okay,
don't
Reza, let's
have a builder there.
Let's stick with
You
this.
don't have people that are actually building for you. You don't have the boots on the ground. And so the point is, when I'm every day in the Palisades rebuilding, helping my community, being an advocate for my neighbors, I just want to say, I'd love to get a commitment from you. You don't have to put another Blue Ribbon Commission. You don't have to staff it and UCLA and that kind of stuff. Put it together, come up with a new manifesto of things that we need, and then we'll trust your authority idea. And then we'll work with Tracy Park, work with Ben Allen, work with the mayor's office, and let's do it together. Because we have, if Palisades comes back, it's good for all of LA County. Thank you.
Thank you, Reza. Okay, Supervisor Horvath, you have all kinds of things to go home with from this.
I appreciate the feedback. We did include expertise from people who build for a living. I'm happy to clarify who it was and how that expertise was included. But I know that there was a lot more mentioned in the comment, and we take all of that to heart. That the Blue Ribbon Commission report was not an after action report on what happened in the fire. It was intended to think about what a resilient recovery looks like, and so there will be different components of analysis that the county has done and will continue to do to address some of what was raised in those comments. Another point that I did want to raise before I leave, if it's okay, is just it came to my attention that people were talking about the Blue Ribbon Commission calling for higher density, and I just want to make sure that people have seen the language on page I-50 of the report, where it says it makes clear that high fire severity zones are not the place for density. It also states that multifamily sites should be assessed for suitability during a redevelopment process, not automatically instituted. So I know that there was a sense, I believe, in part because of the language that was in Senator Allen's bill, that there was a conflation between density and the goals of the Rebuild Authority and the Blue Ribbon Commission. So I just wanted to call out that language that's actually in the commission's report that indicates the opposite of that. But I do wish to continue the conversation. Unfortunately, I do have another meeting that I have to go to tonight, but I appreciate being invited here. I will continue to be invited. I will continue to answer the call whenever I'm invited. And I understand, I am very clear that people are frustrated, and that will not deter me from showing up. That's why I show my face, because I believe that working through conflict and getting to an understanding is worth fighting for. And so I will continue to show up and work with anyone who is interested in that outcome. I really appreciate you inviting me tonight.
We so much appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. And I'm
you.
sure Zach will stay on the line and we'll take back anything that comes along further.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. David, you're here.
Hi.
David Schwarz is going to give an update from the rebuild committee. Because
Hi, everyone.
David has to leave also, so.
Can you hear me all right? I just want to make
Yes.
sure I'm
Yes.
coming
Yes.
through. So I'm going to take since I grabbed the mic, I did want to say two very quick things about what we just heard. The first is that our interactions with the Coastal Commission is not something as a matter of grace. It's required under the Public Act governing state commission meetings. And so when I hear that there are issues around ex parte communications, around daisy chain meetings among members, where there's been a lack of, or perhaps questions concerning an absence of complete transparency, but more importantly, public participation, that's not just an insult to our ability as citizens to understand what's being done. It's a violation of the law. And we're Supervisor Horvath on the phone. I would have asked her whether she was aware of these ex parte communications. If she was, then is she aware of the fact that this would be a basis to undo whatever actions may have been taken by the Coastal Commission? And so I do want everybody to understand that we're not just here with our cap in hand asking for them to listen to us. We have a constitutional right to be heard.
Okay.
So that's my view on this. And I think it's terribly important for her staff member to understand how seriously we do take that. Now, I just want to share a few things by way of update on our survey. And thank you for letting me, Sue, get on my soapbox on that. The first thing is where we are. Right now, NORC reports that we have 1,100 responses. These are individual responses based on invitations from verifiable residents. I'll talk a minute about the verification process to understand. Of those 1,100 responses, they come from 950 unique households. Or in general, we're looking at a roughly 10% response rate. That is statistically significant. It's an important data point because that is the goal you shoot for if you're going to try to do a survey of this nature. And so it's very positive, even though there were questions about whether or not residents who wanted to participate in the survey were not able to get the survey. And I'll talk about how that rolled out in a minute. The reality is we are not dealing with the census. Okay, this is not an exercise that requires us to knock on, virtually speaking, every door. Nor is it what's known as a convenience survey, a survey where people may just, every Tom, Dick, and Harry can weigh in if they get a text or somebody forwards a message to them saying, hey, here's a survey. These surveys are those convenience surveys oftentimes come from people who have agendas that may be commercially motivated. That's not what this is. And so where we are is in between. We've sought out a very specific survey that does something pretty difficult to do and that is very valuable for that reason. It actually can represent to whoever is reviewing the results of the survey that the answers come from people not only who live in the Palisades, but that we can randomize and identify statistically significant buckets of each of the 8 areas where the answers came from. So what we are able to point to is that even though they're random imperfections, they're random and they're spread across evenly all 8 different areas. What this means simply is that notwithstanding the frustrations that some of you may have felt in not getting able to get your survey answered, the spread of responses and the verification of the identity of the people responses has been very, very good. Why does that matter? Because ultimately, and this goes to the question about what's the value and why are we doing this? I do want to specifically respond to a couple of random comments that I've received or that we've read about, some of which say, why are we doing a survey if it tells us something we know already? Or what's the point of having a survey that's asking about certain aspects of an authority that doesn't exist? Or why are we spending $179,000 all in to do a very intensive focus group and then 2 separate surveys? Because in about 6 months' time, we're going to do this again. Well, I suppose we could have taken the $179,000 and given every resident whose home burned down, a check for $25. But the real value of this survey and the value comes from its integrity and the analytical rigor of knowing that these are responses from actual residents, actual renters, actual property owners, is that, and we've been told this by current and former HUD officials, FEMA officials, and elected representatives from Washington, that the single most important tool to liberate money from the federal government through the supplemental appropriations process is to be able to have in hand a survey that can back up earmarking for very, very specific goals. Now, one of the purposes of this survey, I would say, is to make sure that when the appropriation monies are sought, the community speaks with one voice as to whether or not its priority is to have low-income affordable housing, or whether or not its priority is to have fire-resilient improvements made to make sure that people don't die and that they have means of ingress and egress. Well, one way to really make that compelling case is not through anecdotal information of what we might or might not think the community wants, but to actually have a analytically rigorous survey that expresses what the priorities of the community are. The second comment that I've heard from some goes to what has been characterized as perhaps a misunderstanding by NORC of the nature of how the community might financially participate. And I want to be clear, there were questions in the survey which asked hypotheticals. Hypothetical 1 being, would you be willing to have an independent, community-based finance authority that has responsibility over the rebuild? Question 2, would you be willing, in exchange for that autonomy, to accept delays such that the independent authority might be able to control how we roll out using economies of scale, rebuilding from street to street, from neighborhood to neighborhood? Think about how much time and energy might be saved if we could do 24 concrete pours for foundation on one street. Question 3 would you be willing to accept the possibility of a marginal increase in your property taxes if approved by the voters, with that money going to improvements in the existing infrastructure? Now, these are all questions that are predicated on the idea that for the last 100 years, California has not only had lots and lots of special community districts, authorities, but the primary purpose of the authorities is as a financing vehicle. They raise revenue using expectation of property tax revenue to pay for these kinds of improvements. So asking the hypothetical question, would you be willing to accept a marginal increase in your property taxes, doesn't mean it's going to happen, doesn't mean that it will be approved as it must be by the voters. It merely poses the question, what are your willingness to accept trade-offs? So I want to make sure you understand that as not being prescriptive or in dictating a particular direction, but to really understand what this community is willing to accept, and if there are real trade-offs. I think that I hope that covers some of the concerns. And now let me just give you a real quick overview on the schedule.
It does, but just so you know, David, I know you have to leave and we have 2 questions.
If you just give me 3 more
Okay.
minutes, I'll be done
I
with
just want
my
to make sure
side
you
of
can
it.
answer the questions.
Okay. We're going to send out our final email reminders for those who have received a survey to send their new invitations to verified contacts. In other words, so we want to get people one last clear opportunity if they haven't received it to give them that shot. And then on October 13th, the final batch of invitations will go out to verified contacts who submitted the form between yesterday and the 12th, and then the survey will close. So there'll be another window of a week roughly to hopefully capture some of the people who have asked for the survey and who haven't either gotten a response yet or are waiting on it.
Okay.
One last thing, and that goes to the frustration that I think some of you legitimately expressed, and that is NORC was able to get contact information for about 86% of the households. This is an incredibly high number, but unfortunately, but as expected, not all of those current addresses matched up with the current email addresses. And this process involved going through a lot of public and proprietary databases to see if they could make the match. So when somebody asks, may I get a copy of the survey? NORC still has to go through the process of verifying that the person lives in the residence and that the address being sought, the email is matching, and that takes time. Now, one thing that we believe NRRC could have done a better job in was to make sure that when inquiries of this nature were sent in, that they were responsive. They told them, we got you, we're working on it, give us patience, it'll take a couple of days. But throughout the process, including today, I do want to remind everyone that NORC always was insistent on saying that you may, but not necessarily shall receive a survey. Nonetheless, and in order to maintain the integrity of the process such that we're not skewing it by just simply responding to people demanding to be given a shot at the survey, that we do the due diligence necessary to verify it. Now I'll take any questions that you have, and thank you for your participation. Thank you for listening.
No, thank you so much. That was a perfect update. That did answer a lot of questions, I think. But we have
Now I have to go. I'm going to join Lindsay Horvath.
Okay.
Whatever
I know
meeting she's
you have
running
to go.
off to.
I know you have to go, but different place. Anyway,
Don't worry about it.
Daphne and then Allison.
Yeah, very quickly. I know how much work you put into this and they put into us, and it's much appreciated, and your explanations are great. I think part of the frustration is perhaps the communication to the community, that people were under the impression that everybody in the community who wanted to participate would be given an opportunity to do so, as long as they could be verified. And I understand the verification process is complicated. 2 things in that. I literally had to write 4 different times. And every time I was told, you're getting a survey, don't worry about it. It's been over a month. I would think the community would want a much higher rate than 10% if we could get it. And I think there's a lot of people who would be happy to do it. I don't know the reason for cutting it off, but I feel like we should aspire to more than the average. Number 1. Number 2, I think there were some questions that...
Daphne, just hold on. Let me respond directly to that so I don't lose the thought. The average response in the general population survey is between 0.5% and 2%. So 10% isn't just the average. 10% is the standard one.
Average good responses. I've worked on a lot of surveys in litigation. I know how difficult they are, and you want to get the best results you can. The one thing I would say, and that it's not a yes, no, or how would you feel about it, I think to help you in the future in the next phase, I think even if it didn't go to the survey results, allowing people to provide some comments, because some of the questions were once you had to pick one or the other, and there was, given when the survey came out, such as, would you be prepared to delay your work blah, 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 for it's going to people who've already started their work isn't really all that helpful. So maybe they could have said, I might have been if I'd gotten it sooner, but at this point, no. Just so that you have some context for why people are saying yes or no. And I think that would have helped you understand some of the results, because we're getting it at this date. It's no need to be defensive about it. It's a really difficult thing to do what you're doing, and everybody appreciates the hard work. So I just wanted to say that, but I had to fight to get a survey. And if other people are having that experience too, you might be getting a 20% result. It took 5 requests. So,
But you did get it, Daphne, and they responded, thankfully. We appreciate that. Okay, Allison.
Hi, David. I do appreciate all of your thoughtful work and the committee that prepared the survey. Thank you very much. I was on the string of emails with Catherine Warner. We were both independently a bit concerned about the hypotheticals that can lead one to make assumptions. And I know in a sophisticated world, one can look at a survey and say, that's a hypothetical. You're asking me if I would forego building for 6 months to underground. That's not really happening, but I'm going to answer yes or no. We're a bit confused in this community. We get a lot of information from a lot of organizations. So as one who's passionate about undergrounding, because every community that was leveled in the Palisades did not have underground for the most part. And we're advocating for that. DWP has not said it would take 6 months. They're going to go street by street. So these are the types of things. I know it's a nuance that were concerning, and maybe there could be some clarification on that. The same is true. And I think that was the feedback that Catherine had about the authority, that there was an assumption maybe people walked away from that survey as informative rather than hypothetical, that an authority would be a tax. So that I just want to put it out there that we're threading a bit of a needle with the sophistication on a hypothetical and assumptions that people would make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any more hands raised to ask David a question. So unless there is another question, I'll let David go to the airport.
All right. Thank you all.
We good?
You will.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, David.
There is someone that posted a question
That posted a question where?
in the chat. Said, may I ask a question, please? There's 2 populations here, those who burned and those who survived. There's no voice for those who survived.
So I can answer that one. I was one of those who is part of the cohort of those who quote unquote survived. My house is standing, but it's so thoroughly contaminated with toxic metals that it's not habitable for the time being. I was very aware, therefore, to make the survey identify that group of residents. And so it's just not true that the survey ignores those whose homes are standing. There are very specific questions asking people whether or not their homes are standing. Once that sub-cohort is identified, then they can go through the other list of questions and see how that group. Could we have done a more precise job of asking the magnitude of the damage or the kind of damage? Absolutely. But we also have to balance it against a lot of other competing considerations, one of which being people's patience and ability to stick with the questions without feeling that they themselves are getting even more confused. But whoever asked that question, it might as well have been me, because I'm in that boat too. Thank you.
Okay, Miriam has one quick question, David, before you go.
It wasn't a question. I just wanted to say that there were 2 committees that helped with the questions, right? I think that's okay to say. So when the questions were drafted, there were 2 committees that looked at the questions and gave feedback to David. And I know for a fact that one of the feedback that was given to David and it was forwarded to NORC was, can we please make sure that we're also addressing people whose homes are standing? And I agree, there were some people who said, 15 minutes of survey might be too long. So there were a lot, as you say, Allison, there were a lot of needles that were being threaded. So again, we appreciate the effort, and there were community members that took a look at this and tried to be as inclusive as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah,
Okay.
could I just also tell everyone on the PPCC website homepage, there is a link, what's called the contact list link, and that's where you can click if you still haven't gotten the survey and you're a resident, whether your house burned or not, click on that, go to the website, pacpallycc.org, and go through the process to get verified and take the survey. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Okay, we're gonna go back to the agenda now. And we're back to the beginning, which is roll call, so I'm gonna try and make it quick. I'm here, Quentin's here, Beth Holden Garland, I know you're here, Jenny Lee, you're here?